It's been a hot minute since I posted, but good God, do I have something to tell you guys. After I posted my last update, last Saturday around noon, I went down to the grocery store where, lo and behold, I saw Bob with my own two eyes. Victoria and Lily were also there, and James was supposedly coming down too. Bob, what the fuck are you doing here? I asked him. Well, I think I should wait until James gets here so I can explain it to him as well, Bob told me. What about Katie and Oz? Victoria asked. I ran into Katie last night and told her already. And Oz got lost in one of those snake forts again, Bob explained. I only know this because I saw him outside of it, and, well, you guys remember what happened last time. Well, I'll explain the snake forts later. We barely had a moment to think about what Bob told us before James came into the store and was shocked, just like I was, to see our supposedly dead boss standing before us, looking more lively than he had in the past few months. Well, I guess there's no point in waiting for the agents to get here, they already know, Bob said, avoiding eye contact with any of us. So the guys who were here yesterday are involved? Victoria asked. Why the hell doesn't that surprise me? What none of us knew is that they wouldn't be here for a long time. Krasinski and one of the men who took James to the store by force on Friday stayed in a house on Mulberry Lane on Friday night and forgot to follow the code of conduct everyone in this town knows pretty goddamn well. For someone who's supposedly analyzing the anomalies of this town, they weren't doing a very good job at it. I guess that's why Davis and Moore were late coming into the store on Saturday afternoon. A few months ago, I started feeling really under the weather. Told everyone here that I had pneumonia, but that's not the case. He bowed his head for a moment. I remember driving along the old dirt road by Chester's garage and having a coughing fit. I pulled over and I tried to give myself a moment to breathe, and I don't remember anything until Thursday night. He scratched his temple. I was standing in the middle of a field that was right next to the old dirt road. I looked at the condominiums across the street, and they all looked dead. Then I wandered back towards the town and came across Davis, and now I'm here. I paused. Things were starting to make a bit of sense now. So, is that why we're all huddled up in that bunker last night? Davis said something about an artificial being roaming around the woods around the quarry, so I don't think so, James informed me. Well, when did you talk to him? I asked. Like 3 hours ago, when he came through to make sure the grocery store was still shut down. We can't take any chances. I paused again. Victoria kept asking Bob questions, but I was more focused on the fact that all of my rational thoughts had just imploded, and now I was stuck in this twisted mystery. Nothing here really added up. We waited for another 2 hours before Davis showed up. He was alone, as Langston, Moore, and the other men were still cleaning up the mess made on Mulberry Lane. The house they stayed in would be torn down a day later due to something awful in the basement. I have no idea what they found, but couldn't be good. We all grilled him about being late and what the fuck was happening with Bob, naturally, and he didn't have much better explanation than Bob. From what I can tell, it seems that he contracted one of the viruses we keep in the basement of the Easy Mart. My best guess would be Homestrucks, an ancient virus that we found in a dig in New Mexico. Causes a coma that lasts anywhere from 2 to 8 months. Has a flu-like symptom leading up to the coma. He paused. I could see sweat beads breaking out on his forehead. The problem is, we don't know how it got out. This also still doesn't explain how the fake Bob was here for so long, and why we found his remains in the baseball diamond. Really all we got from Davis. As of right now, Bob's legally dead. We have no idea what to expect about the other 8 people who were found dead in the baseball diamond. Naturally, when it comes to this town, the story doesn't end there. Sunday went by without any incident. All I really did was lounge in my apartment and begin looking for other jobs, as I knew the grocery store wouldn't be open for a long time and I'd end up evicted soon enough. However, this town had a sick April Fool's joke waiting for all of us. I woke up yesterday morning to about 10 different texts and 2 voicemails. I have the tendency to sleep like the dead once I actually manage to get comfortable, which is something everyone hates. I even tried to make my ringtone a Slipknot song so that I would actually wake up. But evidently that doesn't work either. To sum it all up, the house that the agents tore down on Mulberry Street had a tunnel running underneath the ground. Smoke was coming out of it, and when Moore entered, he could see a faint orange glow far ahead. Lily called me not even 5 minutes after I had woken up and demanded that I get my ass down there. Of course, I obliged. When I arrived at the scene, I saw that Langdon and one of the other agents that I had seen with James on Friday were inside one of the black vans, fiddling with equipment. Langdon looked up for a brief moment and made eye contact with me. I could have sworn that there was fear swirling around in his eyes. He jumped out of the van and ran over to me. "Mark, I need you to go over to the house for a second. Stand over by Victoria and Lily." Again, I obliged. I walked across the lawn and over towards the hole in the ground that had formed when the house was demolished. We went back to the van and closed the door this time. It's maybe 10 minutes later that he and the other man came out looking absolutely petrified. In the meantime, Moore was setting up a large canopy tent, and Davis was setting up 2 tables with a multitude of laptops and other pieces of advanced technology. "What did you think was going to happen?" Victoria asked me. "I have no idea. But if these guys know about everything that goes on in this town and they're scared, then I think that we're going to be shitting our pants at whatever they find," I told her. Langdon came over to us. "You're free to go back to your homes. I think we got what we need." I couldn't understand what the fuck was going on. I went back home and watched more Netflix, as I had all the time in the world apparently, but I never really watched it. I kept thinking about how weird the events of the past day had been. What had they found under the house? I know it couldn't be the snake fort that Oz wandered into. Snake forts look like large piles of sticks that the hyper-intelligent snakes that lived in our woods built in order to have their offspring. They usually look similar to piles of hay. They had been known to create tunnels as well. Oz got stuck in one of those tunnels before, and the snakes were fairly infuriated. Something else was rubbing me the wrong way. I knew that the bobbing head hadn't gotten into my apartment, as I had locked everything tight, and you'd be able to sense the stench of death before you even entered the building. Either way, I spent the rest of my day in a haze thinking about it. Well, when I woke up this morning, it finally dawned on me what was wrong. And why the town felt so empty. Well, it's been about 2 days since I last posted, and now my town is on the brink of not existing at all. See, I woke up Tuesday morning and I realized what had been bugging me was the seeming lack of other people in my town. Hell, when I came back to my apartment building the day before, it didn't seem like anyone else was there. Well, that's because the population of the town had dropped from 2,407 down to 407. I remember driving down Main Street and passing small diners, the cafe, the town hall, the library, the grocery store, and every other building you can imagine that a small East Coast town has, and there was no sign of life anywhere. In all that time, I saw the old couple that owned the cafe on their deck, and Freddie Nixon smoking marijuana in his beaten Chevrolet Chevelle. On my way back to my house, I passed a horribly mutilated body sitting on the side of Garland Way, towards the turnoff to Mulberry Lane. 2 crows were picking away at the man's intestines through the grotesque wound in his stomach. I didn't recognize him. Once I got back to my apartment, I heard Miss Johnston's beagle whimpering from behind her apartment door. I figured that if I still heard him in a couple of hours that I would take in the poor pup. For some reason, it was a lot colder than the past couple of days. On Monday, it had been almost 60 degrees, but Tuesday felt like it was maybe 45 at most. Not 5 minutes after I came back home, Davis and Langdon had come by and informed me of the situation. I knew most of the town was gone, but they told me only 407 people were left. 2,000 people managed to vanish into thin air the past 24 hours. A couple of their agents had vanished too, one of them being Moore. After looking through the confirmed missing in the town, we found out that Victoria, James, Katie, they'd all disappeared. Couldn't tell with Oz just yet. He could still be in the Snake Fort. Last time he was lost in there for almost 5 days, but he'd managed to make friends with most of the snakes. So now we were crossing into dangerous territory. Something of this extent had never happened in the strange history of this town. This had never happened, well, ever. I talked with Davis over some scotch that afternoon about how odd and disastrous this really was. "I've been with this company for over 11 years now. Never seen anything like this," he began. He took a massive swig of his scotch and polished off the entire glass before pouring himself some more. "Hell, I bet none of this agency has. They've been around since 1805. Yet I guarantee that none of them would have seen the day where 2,000 people just fell off the face of the earth." "You really think that this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened in your agency's history?" I asked him as I fiddled with my glass mindlessly. "Oh, I know it. You've seen a lot of shit over the years. I knew a guy who once saw a 20-foot-tall werewolfish monster climb Mount Rushmore before a chopper shot it down on top of Jefferson's head. I guarantee you, he'd be shitting himself if he put him in this situation. There's no way that this happened, I told him. I scoffed at his tale of a giant werewolf climbing up Mount Rushmore like something out of the movie Rampage. Remember back in 2008 when the news reported that some of the heads on Mount Rushmore needed extensive maintenance? They were repairing the claw marks. I didn't know what to say. Luckily for me, Davis continued talking. We've known how to fix every situation to date, except this one. I'm completely stuck on how the situation's going to be resolved. He threw back even more whiskey. I looked over at Langdon, who was reading a novel entitled Pen Pal. What you reading? Novel about a kid who keeps receiving letters from creepy strangers. Pretty decent, very well thought out. How do you feel about this shit show? I think we're stuck in a situation we can't fix. I think that if we try, we'll be only making things worse. I think your town is in a great matter of trouble, and that's the only 400 people left alive should be cautious over the next few weeks. You think this shit can't be fixed? I finally took a gulp of the smooth scotch that Davis had brought over. It was incredible. It wasn't a thought that stayed in my mind for very long. I think that we are approaching an impasse, Langdon told me. He put down his book and stood up. Yesterday, when we had you and your coworkers stand in front of the hole, we realized that none of you could be seen on any of the monitors. We don't know what exactly is happening at the site, but we know it's very dangerous. This level of a threat has never been seen in the agency's history. So basically, because this hole showed up underneath houses in Mulberry Street, about 80 or 90% of this town disappeared into fucking thin air. I know this must be hard to hear, Mark, but I assure you, we're trying to figure out what's going on as fast as possible. No, you're not, I barked. Even I didn't expect that, but nonetheless, it happened. Davis is sitting at my kitchen counter getting plastered off the best goddamn scotch I've ever had, and you're reading a fucking book. Look, every other agent besides Watson is at the site right now, trying to figure out if anything else is due to come our way, Langdon assured me. Who the shit's Watson? I asked. And why is the ever-loving fuck isn't he helping out too? He's talking to Lily right now. Because you and her are the only ones left in this town that work at the goddamn grocery store, he said, clearly more irritated now. All of the others are missing. Even fucking Bob, who popped up just a few days ago. Davis poured himself yet another glass of scotch in the midst of my argument with Langdon. I'm positive he wasn't even fazed by what was going on. Well then, why are you here? Why are you in my apartment, and why the fuck is Watson with Lily? We're checking on you two. Because clearly you have it covered on your own. Langdon turned to Davis and said, let's go and save this town before we all end up descending straight down to hell. Davis rose to his feet and told me the scotch was mine. I'd end up finishing the entire bottle within the night. As Langdon walked out, he turned back to me and said, you know, you're pretty lucky you don't share the town's name in your Reddit post, so the town's population would drop by one more person. Believe me, we don't need that. The two of them left, and I stood there alone in my apartment. I didn't move or speak, and I barely breathed the whole damn time. Eventually, I heard the faint whimper of Mrs. Johnston's beagle and remembered that 6 hours had passed. I promised myself I'd go check on the poor thing. I went down to the landlord's place and eventually found the key to her apartment. The dog raced out to greet me, and I gladly gave it belly rubs before I took it back to my apartment. Gave it a little bit of a sliced turkey from my fridge. Some water in a small Tupperware container. Later that day, I went back to Miss Johnston's apartment and grabbed the beagle's dog bed, food and water bowl, and his collar, to reveal his name was Eddie. He didn't even bother with the dog bed. He snuggled with me to sleep that night. Yesterday wasn't much of anything. There's me sitting around in a haze of depression mixed with disbelief over the fact that most of the people I knew were probably dead. And that I was stuck in a situation where there was nothing I could do except wait for the agents to come up with a plan. My mother and father are still alive. My sister moved to Annapolis about 2 weeks before the vans even showed up, so at least that's a plus. Now we're here. And now that I've typed out just how helpless I felt, I'm gonna try to fix this situation. Fuck waiting around for the agents to solve the puzzle. I've lived in this town longer than most of them have known its existence. Look, I hope to update you all again soon. If I don't update within a week, then guess I should have stayed home with Eddie. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and once again, it's the end of tonight's video, so I want to tell you all thank you for listening or watching however you hear my voice. Whether it be on YouTube or on the podcast, thank you so much for being here with me. There's going to be a new story every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday night right here on YouTube, or if you're not watching on YouTube, that means the podcast gets updated on SoundCloud, Apple, Google Play, and now the podcast is on Spotify. So if it's easier for you guys to listen there than it is to listen on YouTube, then hey, not such a bad deal, right? As always, any support you guys give towards MrCreepyPasta Storytime really does help me out. I can actually keep the lights on in the house, and I can get nice little cat treats for Hercules. Okay, sorry for taking up so much of your time. Thank you guys for listening once again, and sweet dreams.